You're listening to the What's Happening podcast with Gary Watts.
Good morning. I'm really excited today on Watts podcast to have Jon Gordon, a famous author. He's been on the Wall Street Journal's bestseller list for I don't know how long. Started writing books, I think, in about 2007. If you haven't read any of his books, he started with The Energy Bus, which was fantastic. I think our leadership group at the company read that about 5 or 6 years ago. And then his latest book, which I think he hit a home run, just an amazing book called The One Truth. So a famous author, famous speaker, just a great guy, faith-filled person, Jon Gordon. Welcome, Jon.
Good morning, Gary. Great to be with you.
Great. Well, listen, let's get started. I know the first book my first exposure to Jon Gordon was I read The Energy Bus, and I thought it was really interesting. And can you tell us a little bit about? I think that was your life, or what was going on. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about what led you to writing The Energy Bus?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, the book was based on me, and the main character George was
Right.
based on me. I was miserable. I was negative. I was blaming my wife for why my life was not what I wanted to be, why I was not living up to my potential or dreams. I had lost my job during the dot-com crash. So I'm thinking, how am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to support my family? I felt like such a failure, and I was crumbling from the inside out. And by blaming my wife, she's like, okay, I love you, but I'm not going to spend my life with someone who makes me so miserable and is like this all the time. Like, you change or we're over. And she was going to leave, and I had to change. And that began this journey of like working to become a more positive person. And so years later, I would write this book about George, the main character, who's really struggling. His wife's about to leave him. His team at work is in disarray, and he wakes up Monday morning to a flat tire. So now his life is getting really bad, and he has no way to get to work, and his wife won't take him to work. That was based on personal experience as well. So he has to take the bus to work, and he meets Joy, the bus driver, and she and a cast of characters teach him the 10 rules for the ride of his life that not only help him become a more positive person, but a better father, a better husband. And it's about getting his team on the bus and moving in the right direction with a shared vision, focus, and purpose. It's about going from negative to positive. It's about overcoming your challenges at work. It's about leading your team. It's about loving your passengers. It's about overcoming energy vampires. There's a lot of messages in there. And it's just wild, Gary, that I would write that book, years ago in 2006. It came out in 2007. I was 36 years old. Here I am now, 52. The book is still a Wall Street Journal bestseller.
Right.
Like every other week, it seems like, still reaching more and more people. So I think it's really resonating what I was going through, what people are going through now, and how it connects to people and also teams that want to be more positive together.
I think the book, when you read it, it's really telling a story to all of us. I know that I felt like I was George too. So when you talk about yourself, you were George. I think that's a neat way to craft the book. How did you have a calling, or tell us about? You were 36, and then I read a little bit prior to that. You were in Buckhead, Atlanta, right, in that suburb of Atlanta, and you had your own restaurant bar. And then how did you get there? And tell us about between there and then writing The Energy Bus.
Yeah,
What was
so moved down to Atlanta after college, wanted to create my life, and just drove down in a car, waited tables, bartended eventually, and then bought a bar next door to me where I was bartending after I met the owner of that place. He was looking to sell. I got some investors together, some partners, and we all went in. I did not come from wealth or from money, but my grandmother had left me $30,000 when she passed away. And that money I had in mutual funds. So I took that money, pulled it out, and put that into this bar as my share of being a quarter owner. And I was like the marketing guy. And I also bartended after we opened it. So I was now working and then owning. It was really cool, like being young, 24 years old, owning this bar, mover and shaker, meeting all these people. I also started a nonprofit organization called the Phoenix Organization, and we were raising money and volunteering for youth-focused charities. So I had this master's in teaching that I got when I moved to Atlanta, and next thing you know, I'm have a teacher slash bar owner impacting this nonprofit, meeting all these young people, getting them involved in charity in the community and making a difference. So it was a really fun time. Met my wife shortly after opening the bar. So like after about 3 weeks. So I never had the single bar owner life, just so you know that. And then I met my wife and then began the life with her. So now we're living in Atlanta, owning these places. I ran for city council. I went to law school for a year and a half, dropped out of law school because I had this opportunity to go work for this .com where I was going to make my fortune, 100,000 shares. This was it. I was going to become wildly successful, very wealthy. I also didn't love law school. I knew it wasn't for me. So here I am, like moving and shaking, creating this incredible outcome, and then everything came crashing down. But before it was crashing down, we were in Atlanta and my wife wanted to move to the beach. So that brought us to Jacksonville, where we moved to Jacksonville from Atlanta. And I kept my job in the .com at the time after the move, but then everything came crumbling down, everything came crashing. And that's where the transition happened, where I was becoming George, where I was being miserable and negative. And then at that point, when she threatens to leave me, then I begin to change and I start to see a difference as I'm doing all these positive things because I'm researching all the ways I could be more positive. And this is during the emerging field of positive psychology. So I'm practicing ideas. And then I began writing about them, sharing a weekly positive tip. And I had 5 subscribers to my newsletter. And they were, my mother, my brother, my best friend from college. And I'm sending that, that newsletter out to people and they start sharing it. And this led me to say, okay, I have something valuable to share. I want to impact people. I'm doing this, which eventually led me probably, a few years later to writing The Energy Bus, which changed my life, and then got out there. And next thing you know, I started speaking to all these companies and sports teams and organizations. So it's been quite a journey.
Well, another thing people might be fascinated by, I guess you ran for city council and you knocked on 7,000 doors.
Yeah, you've done your homework, Gary. Yep, 7,000 doors, door to door. Hello, left a note if they weren't home that I came by. I was winning the election because I was going door to door, meeting everyone, had a billboard in town, raised some money. Again, I'm 26 years old, 27 years old, running for city council, and I'm winning. And then they just came and attacked me. They made up lies about me. I mean, come on, I'm 26, 27. I have no baggage. And yet they just came with all this negativity because I was a threat to the establishment. And so they really attacked me big time. And I did really well in the election. I lost by a few thousand votes, but I almost, could have won. But I'm glad I didn't.
Right.
If I would have won.
You learned a lot, I'm sure, knocking on doors, did you?
Talked to so many people,
Yeah.
learned a lot. After I lost, I thought my life was over. Like it was such a feeling of dejection to lose and rejection. And I thought my future is hopeless. Like, what am I going to do now? But sometimes you have to lose a goal to find your destiny.
Right.
And that's what happened to me. I lost my goal, but I found my destiny as a writer. I would be dealing with potholes in Atlanta. I might have become eventually maybe ran for the mayor position. I might have done that. But by not winning, it led me to eventually become a writer and speaker to fulfill my true calling. Now, people still ask me, are you going to go into politics? Will you run? The country needs you. I bet a lot of people say you should run when they see me speak, but I just don't want to get into all the negativity that exists. Right. And I'm not sure that you can actually even make a difference in today's climate. It's just so crazy. I think I can make a greater difference doing what I'm doing now.
So you just don't wake up positive. Let's talk about the psyche of being positive and staying positive. It's a lot of work. Can you give us some ideas or thoughts that you've written about to try to stay on and be positive? I know one of the things you mentioned is a gratitude walk that you try to do. So could you give us some tips or some ideas as opposed to, it's not easy to stay positive when you're in business, when you're dealing with families, when you're dealing with lots of things, children. There's a lot of things that come up and it's not easy, but can you tell us some steps to start, like even now or today after listening to this, on what you can do to start getting your mind trained to be more positive?
Yeah, I love that you said that because you don't wake up one day and just become positive. It does take work. And I'm not naturally positive. People think I am, because of the books that I write, the talks I give, but people are surprised to find out that I actually naturally go towards the negative. I have to work really hard at being positive. And over the years, I began taking these walks of gratitude because I read that you can't be stressed and thankful at the same time. So if you're feeling grateful, you can't be stressed. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a thank you walk every day. I coined the phrase, thank you walk. And while you're walking, you just say what you're thankful for. And when you're doing that, you're flooding your body and brain with these positive emotions that uplift you rather than the stress hormones that slowly drain you and over time will slowly kill you. So by doing that day in and day out, right, I was creating a fertile mind that was ready for great things to happen. And then since writing The One Truth, what I share in that book is I realized now what I was doing was tuning my brain, which is an antenna. And that antenna could tune into the positive frequency or the negative frequency. There are two main frequencies, positive or negative. That's why everything comes down to positive and negative, like positivity, negativity, good, evil. It's all duality, positive or negative. And for me, taking those walks of gratitude day in and day out, I was now tuning into the positive, and that became my natural state now. Like I naturally go towards the positive now. Like I've rewired my brain from negative to positive. It's been incredible, but you've got to work at it. When those negative thoughts come in, you've got to overcome them. I talk about fuel now, F-U-E-L, right? F is all about feeding the positive. You got to feed the positive every single day, not the negative, because whichever you feed yourself, that's going to grow. There's the U. How do you feed the positive? You uplift your mind and your soul on a daily basis. You can pray, you can meditate, you can practice mindfulness, you can use positive self-talk. Make sure you're doing that day in and day out to uplift your mind and soul. Just as you work out with weights to strengthen the body, you've got to actually work out your mind and tune into the positive so it becomes part of your psyche, part of your mindset. The thoughts we think become the life that we live and the reality that we create. As a man thinks, he becomes. As a woman thinks, she becomes. So uplifting your mind every day with those positive thoughts are essential. Like in the past, it used to be like, hey, just be positive. Man, it's a great way to live. No, it's essential to be positive. Otherwise, you are choosing the negative. Otherwise, you're allowing negative thoughts to bring you down, to hold you back. The root for the Greek word of anxious means to separate and divide. And so when you feel anxious, you feel separate and divided. When you feel separate and divided, you feel anxious. What do negative thoughts do? They separate you. They divide you. They weaken you. They make you feel powerless. Have you noticed, Gary, all overthinking is associated with negative thoughts? We never say I have too many positive thoughts.
Right.
We never say I have too much gratitude, too much goodness, too much joy, too much hope. Man, I'm just too hopeful today. Man, I have too much hope. We always have this overthinking associated with negative thoughts because that's what negative thoughts do. They make you feel weak and powerless. They make you timid. They separate you and they divide you. But positive thoughts uplift you. They encourage you. They strengthen you. They give you confidence and courage. And so positive thoughts are essential. We got to uplift our mind. E, we've got to encourage ourselves and encourage others. The word encourage means to put courage into. So the more you encourage someone, you're putting courage into them. And when you're encouraging yourself, you're putting courage into yourself. And you've heard me talk about talking to yourself, don't listen to yourself. So instead of listening to all the negative thoughts, all the reasons why you can't do it, talk to yourself with the words of encouragement that will give you life, that will give you power, that will give you strength. So encouragement is essential. And then there's that L, which is love it. Focus on love, and love casts out fear. So anytime fear sets in, focus on love because love casts out fear and you'll be so much more powerful. Love the opportunity to create your life. Love that you get to do this. Love the challenges because they make you stronger. Love the competition because it makes you better. Love competing in the moment instead of worrying about the outcome and being fearful of messing up or making a mistake. Just focus on love and fear will dissipate. If people would use this FUEL acronym, and I have a lead gen for it, by the way, too, as people want that. If they just want to basically a resource, if they want to just, have it, they can use it. Just find me on Instagram. And I had it right there. Like today, I posted it today. You go on Instagram, you put your email, and then boom, you get to use this resource that will help you become your best and utilize FUEL And if you do that, you're going to literally uplift your mind. You're going to encourage yourself. You're going to feed yourself. You're going to practice love instead of fear. And now you will perform at a higher level. Do this day in, do it day out. It strengthens you instead of all the negative thoughts that sabotage you.
So it's a working process. And, being positive, like you said, it's like, I really like the idea of the thankful walk or the gratitude walk. How can you be upset if you're gracious or you're thankful for your family, for your businesses, for your relationships? I think that's great. One of the things that I did with our leadership team that I wanted you to comment on is at that time, it was 3 H's, and I just learned that you've added a couple other H's. It was hero, highlights, and hardships. And one of the things that I found when we did the 3 H's was some of the folks, it really got really heavy, I thought, on the hardship part and where that came from. And a lot of things stem from childhood experiences. And you talk about that in the One Truth. And can you tell us a little bit about the 3 H's? Now they're the 5 H's. And when people open up and listen to each other, and then also maybe talk a little bit about your childhood. You were, your father left when you were very young, right? And then you were raised by your stepfather. And then how we're healing at work, and some of the things that we've talked about recently. You're healing at work, and the workplace is somewhere to heal, and all the things that went on in the past.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you did that with your team. Was it powerful for your team? Was it helpful?
It was amazing. It was amazing because you learn. There was things I learned I had no idea. And some of them had some really extreme hardship. Some didn't, and I think that helps mold you. It's almost like the harder it got, the better they were as leaders.
Yeah, that's what's so great about this. When you do a hero hardship highlight exercise, it's a team building exercise. It's a team development exercise. You gather with your leadership team, or you gather with your staff, and you do an exercise like this, where each person shares who's their hero, a hardship they faced that made them who they are today,
Right.
and a highlight that they're proud of. As each person goes around and shares, people get vulnerable and they start sharing. And then you learn about each other as you're talking about. And then from there, you want to fight for that person. You feel more connected to that person. And now you're more committed to that person because you didn't know their story. You didn't know where they came from. You didn't know their background. And now you do. And it's like, oh, I know you so much better. I know why you are the way you are. I know why you have this grit. I may even know why you have these challenges and issues sometimes that come up for you. And now we're bonded together. And the goal is not to come in every day and say, oh, yeah, that past issues hold me back. Right. No, it's like, okay, now I know what is holding me back. How do we move forward together? How are we better together? How can we succeed together? Because we're here to come to work to do something great together and work well together and achieve success together. So we have to remember that. But this kind of exercise develops a strength and a bond with a team that I've never seen go wrong. Like, I've worked with a lot of sports teams doing this, and it's been incredible how this team unites together. And now, man, they are fighting for each other instead of against each other. And when adversity hits, they're not running away from each other. They're running towards each other. And it's the same way in the workplace, because you're facing a lot of work. You know this. You're battling. There's competition. There's adversity. There's struggles. There's customers. So the more we can actually work together and unite together, we can take on all the forces that are coming against us. So that's key to understand that. The two last H's that I've added is, what do you hope for? That's the 4th H. And the 5th H is, what's hilarious? So you add something funny and some humor at the end. What's funny? What's hilarious? And you do that as a team. And the thing is, a lot of times the hardships reveal the wounds that we have, like, of our past. We've all been wounded in some way in the past. We've all experienced something that caused a separation within us. And that's what a wound is. It's a separation. And that wound so often needs healing. Like, I shouldn't say so often, it always needs healing. And we go through life with this wound, and you're either living from your wound or from your healing. So what are you doing as you're approaching your life and facing your challenges? When the fights come up and the difficulties come up, that will reveal your wound or reveal your healing. Are you acting like a narcissist because of the wound? Or are you able to, through your healing, help and heal others? Healed people help and heal others. People who have wounds, who are still dysfunctional, actually create dysfunctional relationships. And so often hurt people hurt others. So it really is a great opportunity to heal when you understand what your wounds of the past are and how you can heal them. And nothing's wrong with you if you have a wound. Nothing's wrong with you if you have this past event that happened to you. It's not meant to define you, and it doesn't define you. It's part of your story, it's part of your journey, and it's part of the scars that you'll experience as you heal in this life. So the journey of life is to move from the wound to wholeness and healing, to move from separateness towards oneness. And as we do, we heal. That was my journey, right? I was abandoned by my biological father who left when I was a year old, raised by my dad. I hate the term stepfather because he really was my dad and raised me and loved me like his own. And he took me under his wing and loved me and raised me. But I also had these abandonment issues of a biological father who left. So that was something that needed to be healed within me. And looking back, I remember when I wanted to start writing, I couldn't. And I don't know why, but I did this, not to write, but I just went up to visit my biological father, went back up to New York from Florida to go visit him and forgive him. And I took my daughter with me. And I just told him straight out that I forgive him. And after that, I started writing. It was wild. It was like I had to let go of the old to create the new. I had to work to heal the wound to be able to move forward in my life. And we all do. And that's been a big part of my journey is healing myself, right? I wrote The One Truth and talk about wholeness in that book. And my word for this year is WHOLE. It's whole. It's knowing that I am whole. It's spending time with God so I become whole. And relational psychology says we heal in a loving relationship. And so the love of others does help us heal. The love we give ourselves does help us heal. But it's still also not enough. Like our own love is not enough because it's flawed. Even though community is really essential for healing and helps us heal, it's still not enough. There's a love that truly heals, an ultimate love. And the question is, can you heal with a stranger? No, it has to be a loving relationship. So if God is a stranger, can he heal you? No, it has to be a loving relationship. It's a personal God. Well, when you spend time with the creator of the universe and you're connected to your creator, God naturally wants to heal you through love and forgiveness. And it's that love and forgiveness that truly heals the wound that you have, that ultimately heals it. And in that healing, we're renewed, we're restored, we're redeemed. And spiritually, that's a journey that we all are meant to go on towards that healing. And I just hope more and more people understand that. And as they read The One Truth, it will lead to healing your soul if you're open to the message and open to do the work that healing requires. And it's not a lot of work. I mean, it's not like I have to do a lot of work. It's actually the more mental, emotional work of letting go of the sludge and all the stuff that blocks you and letting it go and allowing and receiving the love and forgiveness that will truly heal you. Does that make sense, Gary?
Yeah, it does. The oneness and separateness. Can you go into that just a little bit in The One Truth, which I think's, yeah, you've culminated all your books into one. And I think it's the best one you've ever written is The One Truth. But can you talk about, I mean, and I think of today's world, of what's going on all around the world, how this could cure a lot of our problems, this oneness and the separateness.
Totally. And before we do that real quick, you asked me about healing at work.
Yes.
And the question is, can you heal at work? And I believe the answer is yes. Like when I speak to a lot of coaches in sports, I tell them the future of coaching is healing. Like these players come in with their wounds from their past and their traumas and their past experiences and growing up in very difficult environments and households. And you as a coach have the opportunity to help that player heal with love and bring in the love of a team. And as you heal together, you grow together and you become stronger together. And I've seen teams do this where they've actually worked on their wounds and healed as a team in college and had incredible success as a result of that. It's not why you do it, but it's the result. Like healed people are stronger. Healed people are people who have more confidence and courage. And so they're not afraid of the moment. They'll go for it because they know their identity is not tied to their performance. So in sports, it makes such a difference, but at work as well. Like I do believe that you can heal at work. If you would do a team building session like this with your team, you're actually bringing love to the team, awareness, understanding, vulnerability. And now instead of walking around with this hardened heart and bitterness and anger, or being anxious and stressed and worried all the time. There's a sense of emotional and psychological safety. There's a sense of love and care. There's a sense of, okay, I have a team that supports me. I can go for it. I can work harder. I can be better. I can do more. And then you wind up accomplishing amazing things together. So work provides an incredible opportunity for relationships to develop that allow healing to take place, because you heal in a loving relationship. So if you can have loving relationships at work, you can heal at work and thrive at work. The antidote to fear is love. The antidote to all the challenges is love. But also at the same time, you go to work, and if you have dysfunction and you have wounds and you don't address them, man, they're going to come out. And you will see them come out in so many different ways in the workplace, between leaders who have the wounds, between the team members who have the wounds, and you start fighting. And the truth is, you're bringing your home and your past with you to work if you don't heal it. If you don't address it and heal it, you're bringing that stuff with you, and then it's coming out at work in your relationships and in everything you do. So this is really the future of what a lot of people are going to be talking about in the future. You watch. I've always been at the forefront of things, and the one truth is at the forefront. This is going to be a topic that's going to come up more and more. And, from that weekend, what was the day with that Pat and I did, a day with John and Patrick Lencioni, that you were there. We're now going to do a weekend with Pat and John. So the weekend is going to be where it's all about wounds and healing. And we feel called to do that, which I think is going to be really powerful. It's not going to be a high ticket event like the one day was. It's going to be an event that you can come with families, bring your adult children. It's going to be bring your spouse if you want. You want to come alone, we give people the opportunity to come. Day one is the wounds. Day two is the healing. What do you think, Gary? You think it's a good idea?
I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be really, really incredible what we do with that. And then you asked about the one truth. See, the one truth ties into all of this, because everything comes down to oneness and separateness. When you feel one, you feel connected, you feel powerful, you feel joy, you feel peace and confidence and courage. A team that is one team, is united and connected, is a powerful team. A team that is separate and divided is a weak team. When you feel separate, you feel anxious and worried and fearful and lack confidence and lack courage. So we have a choice. Do we go through life feeling powerless, feeling worried all the time, chronically stressed? Or do we go through life feeling courageous and confident and powerful and peaceful? And that's how we're meant to go through life. We're not meant to go through life all negative. So the one truth is all about how to elevate your mind, how to win the battle of your mind so you can go through life with this power, how to connect more and become and experience and feel that oneness that you're meant to have. And then as you do, you actually feel more healthy and whole. So this is the answer to mental health. It's the answer to mental toughness. And this is the key to high performance. And if people actually follow this and live this, it's going to be amazing what it does for their life and their career and their performance. And it's been endorsed, as you know, by Sean McVay, by Dabo Sweeney, by Ed Milet, by Patrick Lencioni, by all these, by Alan Mullally, who turned around Ford years ago. He said this book actually represents sort of the underlining truth of his working together management system and how he was able to turn around Boeing and Ford. He got people to come together and be one team. And when you read this, you'll understand how you can make your team become united and connected and bring them together into that oneness. It's powerful.
Can you give us a quick idea of your faith journey, how that's grown over the years, and how that got started, and your calling?
Yeah, I wasn't a believer. I grew up in a Jewish Italian family. A lot of food, a lot of guilt, a lot of wine, a lot of whining. My mom was Jewish. My biological father was technically Jewish. My stepfather, my dad was a New York City police officer, Italian. So we never went to church. We never went to temple. We celebrated Christmas. We celebrated Hanukkah. We celebrated all of the different holidays, both Jewish and Christian. Right. But I wasn't a believer. Never went to church. Didn't know much about Jesus. And in my early 30s, when I was struggling and my wife threatened to leave me, I began this journey of trying to become more positive. And I was doing all these different things, like I said, positive psychology, all that was great, but it still wasn't enough. it still didn't heal the hole that I had in my soul and the angst that I had so often and the fear that ultimately was holding me back. I still had all of these wounds that needed to be healed. And then I heard this sermon one day from a guy named Erwin McManus. He's a pastor in Los Angeles, and it really spoke to me. It was called Why I Follow Jesus. And when I listened to the sermon, it ultimately led me to accepting Jesus as my savior because I realized I couldn't save my soul, myself or my soul, that I needed a healer. And that healer is named Jesus. It made so much sense. You believe, you receive. It made so much sense that the Old Testament is a story of separation. Adam and Eve being separated in the garden from each other and from God. And Jesus came to restore us back into a relationship with God, with the creator of the universe, to experience that oneness and that connection. It all makes sense. And when you understand that, all mental health disorders report feelings of being alone and isolated and disconnected and feeling separate. You can see how people feeling separate affects their mental health. We have terms like schizophrenia or bipolar. That's a separation. And then as you find healing and connection and wholeness through relationship, that's what God's all about, bringing you into that health and wholeness. And it just makes so much sense. And when you move from oneness to separateness, you move from positive to negative. And when you move from separateness to oneness, you move from negative to positive. You move towards the positive, healthy, and wholeness that God wants for us. So it just makes so much sense. So as I was realizing that and seeing all that, I realized that I couldn't save myself. Like I needed a savior. I couldn't do this myself. And I didn't create me. Like there was a creator. And I think so many people have turned away from God because they don't like religion. Well, guess what? Jesus didn't like religion either. And so I'm not a big fan of religion. I'm all about relationship with the creator of the universe. And that creator wants to heal you and make you whole. Who doesn't want to be whole? Who doesn't want complete health and holiness and happiness and joy? And that's what you get with a relationship. I think Jesus and the Christian faith has been misrepresented by so many because too many focus on what they're against. But it really comes down to it. It's really a love story. It's a truly epic story of an intimate and connected walk with God. And that's been my faith journey. And I've seen how over the years of growing in my faith, of surrendering and trusting and praying and just saying, God, your purpose, not my purpose, your will, not my will. Use me, God. I've seen this intimate walk in my own life and how it's renewed my mind, how it's healed my soul, how it's transformed my life and led to incredible fruit in my life. You know, we all have challenges. We have kids that struggle. It doesn't mean we weren't good parents. It means that there's a battle going on between good and evil. And when you're trying to do good in the world, you're going to get attacked. You're going to suffer. You're going to face a lot of challenges and adversity. How do you overcome it? Well, I don't believe your faith in God, in God makes life easier. It makes you stronger. And it doesn't mean when you believe and trust in God that everything's going to work out and everything's going to be perfect. It means that through your struggles and your challenges and all the stuff that comes your way, you will have the relationship and the strength to persevere and thrive through it and on the other side of it. Suffering is going to be part of it. But in that suffering, you find ultimately a greater relationship and a deeper relationship with the creator that takes you through the suffering. And to me, that's what faith's all about. And that's strengthened me. It guides my work and what I do and how I do it. And I'll tell you what, because of my faith, I care a lot more about people. Because in the past, when I was self-focused, struggling, very narcissistic in many ways, I didn't have a strong faith. I didn't have a strong relationship with God, and I felt very separate. And now in my healing and my connection and my oneness, I now care about the one who is lost, the one who needs hope, the one who needs encouragement. I meet people and I now care about them. And that's what God does. God actually wants to heal others, and he wants to use us to do it.
The conference in Dallas with you and Patrick, it was spirit-filled, the whole room. It was amazing. I'm sure you felt that, but Becky and I sure did. It was fantastic. Lastly, I know we got a time constraint here. Tell us about, do you have a calling for another book? What are your thoughts on that?
Totally. Oh yeah, I've got several books actually in my head already that I know I'm supposed to write. The question is which one and when. I do have Energy Bus for Schools coming out, so that's one that's coming out, but it's not like a big book of mine. That's more to support the Energy Bus for Schools program that we have and to let people know about this incredible way to transform your school culture. Got another one coming out with a colleague, Amy Kelly. She's our head consultant for the Jon Gordon companies, and we're writing difficult conversations don't have to be difficult. And this is a really cool way to build a stronger team. So I'm excited about that book we're doing together. And then I've got these few others that I've been thinking about. I'm going to write those. And I'm still wondering if I should write this December or not, because if I don't write this December, I can't write a book. So I may write one this December, or I may have to wait till next December to write the next one.
Well, fantastic. Well, Jon, I really appreciate your time this morning. I just encourage everybody to get The One Truth. If you've not read it, to me, it's a culmination of everything that you've written in the past. It's fantastic. And then, of course, the 10 rules to fuel your life. The Energy Bus is just that was my first start into your books, and it's been a snowball effect ever since. So read the Energy Bus. Jon, thanks again. I appreciate your time, and God bless you for all you do for everybody.
Well, Gary, I want to say I appreciate you. I appreciate the leader you are, the man you are. And what's so special about you is you've had this incredible success, and yet you still want to improve. You still want to grow, and you still want to get better. And so when I meet leaders like you, it really inspires me to be a better leader. So ever since meeting you in Iowa, I'm a better person. And all roads meet in Iowa is what I say.
Yeah, they do.
Iowa is a special place. And I love Iowa, and I love the people of Iowa. I told Jordan, I said, Jordan, I think you and I are in competition of who likes Iowa the best and who Iowa likes the best. So let's continue to compete on that. Because when I come to Iowa, the people of Iowa always embrace me, and they make me feel welcome, and they're so special. And I just got to tell you, I love Iowa, and I love what you're doing in Iowa. So thanks, Gary.
Thank you very much. Have a good one. So just had a fantastic conversation with Jon Gordon, and a couple things I just want to make sure you read. The Energy Bus, it's an easy read. It's a fantastic read, and it's really the story of Jon Gordon's life before he started writing books, and what he experienced. So I'd highly encourage you to pick up the Energy Bus. It's an easy read. He also has a children's book out called The Energy Bus for Kids. Read this book. It's fantastic. And then lastly, Jon has about 20 some books he's written. All of them are fantastic, but his latest book is called The One Truth. And it's a culmination of all these books into one. It's fantastic. It talks about openness and separateness, and the brain has an antenna. It's just amazing. Anyway, get The One Truth by Jon Gordon.